Hello, my name is Dorothy Addy. I'm 14 years old, I'm 5'7", and I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. So one time when I was in 6th grade, this was like 4 years ago, I was walking home from school and I had a choir concert later that night. So I was walking home with my two friends and we were just walking, you know, I live like pretty close to the school, but like not like so close, like next door. So we were walking and this car pulls up to us and he rolls down the window and he's like, "I'm the boogeyman, I've come to say hi." And I'm just like, okay, that's kind of weird. Like, it was weird, but like, I didn't really think anything of it. Like, it's just like a guy like messing around. And this guy, he was like 60. And it was just really like uncomfortable. So we just like kept walking. We're like, okay, we're gonna like leave now. But the car was like following us, like seriously. So we get like a block, like not like a block, but like a street away from my house, and the car like keeps pulling up to us and saying like, "I'm the boogeyman, like I've come to say hi." And we're like all really uncomfortable with this. So we go home and we tell my mom. And we're like, "Mom, this guy, he's like 60, he keeps pulling us to us and telling us that he's the boogeyman." So she's like, "That's really weird, let's go to the police station." So we go to the police station and then we file a police report on this guy who says he's the boogeyman. And at this point, one of my friends has left and gone back to school because she needs to set up like the things for the choir concert. She's older than us. And so it's just me and my other friend filing this police report. And then we come back to school and we tell her, we're like, "Oh my God, we filed the police report on the boogeyman, like he came to us, that guy." And she's like, "Oh my God, that's my dad." And we're all just like, "You didn't say that, like we just filed a police report on your dad, like we described him and everything." So yeah, so I filed a police report on the boogeyman. That was my friend's dad. So
did you get arrested? Like, how did that?
Hi, my name is Ryan Arthur. I am 5 feet flat, and I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. Okay, so I just actually moved to Charlotte from Virginia. I lived in Virginia like all of my life, basically. And when I moved to Charlotte, I went to this school called R.G. Kell High School, and like, you know, it's a pretty alright school. They have like a pretty good theater program, and so I was like, I should audition for a show. So they have like a class show that they do every year for the advanced theater classes, and I decided to audition for that, and I got the role of Puck, and for A Midsummer Night's Dream. And I was like, okay, like this is lit, you know, like my first lead role, like it's awesome. And I was like, okay, well I'm new here. I have all these people around me. I should probably interact with somebody. So there's this dude named Dylan, and I had heard somewhere that like he had like a sister named Devin who came here, and like she was actually in our class. And I was like, oh, okay, like that's cool. So I was like, hey Dylan, your sister, like Devin, like what's up with her? Like you guys don't look alike at all. Like that's kind of interesting. And he was like, well, yeah, that tends to happen when you're adopted. And I was like, oh. Okay. I didn't know how to respond, but I was like, you know, like I gotta come up with something. Like it has to be witty, maybe something that would like change the topic. And I was just like, oh, okay, that's cool. And he was like, yeah, it's pretty legit. And I was like, oh. And he was like, oh. And I was like, well, I just didn't know. And he was like, okay, well, yeah, most people wouldn't know because I'm not adopted. And I was like, it's cool, it's fine. You're not adopted, so you lied to me. And he was like, I sure did. And he walked away. And that's the story of how I got bamboozled into thinking somebody was adopted.
Hi, I'm Tim Bloffus. I'm 14, 5'11", and I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. So this is a story that I usually tell around the campfire, and it's debated on whether it's true or not, but it's about a conductor, and he was framed for murder, but nobody knew that, so they just assumed that he actually did murder somebody. So he got put on death row, waited a few days, then night before, they asked him what he wants for dinner, and he asked for a mediocre, like not expensive at all, like cheapest steak possible, cheapest cigar, and cheapest wine. And that night he gets everything he asked for, eats the steak, drinks the wine, smokes a cigarette, but after he smokes a cigarette he eats the ashes. And he goes to sleep that night. In the morning they take him to the electrical chair, normal dosage, and they electrocute him and he survives. And nobody knows why. So they're going to electrocute him tomorrow, and they ask him what he wants for dinner: mediocre steak, mediocre wine, and a mediocre cigar. And same thing happens, he eats the steak, drinks the wine, smokes a cigar, and eats the ashes again. Goes to sleep that night, wakes up in the morning, take him to the electrical chair, higher dosage, and then electrocute him, and he survives again. And now it started to get press coverage. So that night, they ask him what he wants again. And he asked for the best possible steak, best possible wine, and best possible cigar. Yet again, eats the steak, drinks the wine, smokes a cigar, and eats the ashes. And that morning, after he slept, they take him to the electrical chair. There are reporters there, tons of cameras, and they up the electrical dosage as high as they can go. And he survives again. Nobody knows why. And they decide that because there's so much press coverage, they're just going to keep him there for one more night so that they can, just bile down. And so late the next night, at more early, about 3 a.m., they sneak him out the back of the jail and take him to a taxi. And he gets in the car, and they're driving to his house, and the taxi driver just asks him, "Hey man, I heard about you. How'd you do it?" And the conductor goes, "Well, I'm a bad conductor."
Hi, my name's Taryn Bracher. I'm 16 years old, and I'm originally from Chattanooga, Tennessee. So I don't know if this place sort of actually spreads all across the U.S., but if any of you guys have heard about the Chattanooga Choo Choo, that's what I'm going to be talking about. It's really boring, by the way, not a fun place. But basically what the Chattanooga Choo Choo is this okay, so we used to have a train station actually at Chattanooga, and there's just a bunch of old trains just left there. So what they did with those old trains, and I mean when I say they were left there, they were left there in the 1920s, they're old. So what they did with those trains is they actually turned them into sort of a hotel room basically, so where you can come to the Choo Choo and you can actually stay in an old train station. So at the Choo Choo is actually really, really creepy at night because it's so old, and there's actually a lot of really old ghosts just kind of floating around there. So every year during Christmas, the Choo Choo hosts this elfing sort of thing where the theater group that I'm a part of, me and a bunch of my friends, we sign up for it, and basically what we do is we dress up as elves. And we go and we tuck in these little children at night, read them a bedtime story, and it's really fun. It's great. So one night, me and my friend were going to this room to Elf, and it's on the end of the trains that's sort of far away from where all the people are. So that's where it's the creepiest. And along this sort of sidewalk area, they have a bunch of torches lit up, but some of the torches are out around there, and it's really dark and it's really creepy. So we get our room, and it's 760 something, that's the number of our room. And one thing to note too about this is that all of the trains, all of the 700 number on the trains, all of the sevens are scratched out or gone. There's no sevens there. It's really freaky. So we get to our room, and we look in the window, and there's no lights on at all. And we knock on the door. We do our special knock because the elves all have a special knock, and nobody answers. So we wait a few minutes, and we're okay, we'll just go to our next room and we'll come back. So we go to our next room, and we come back, and we do the special knock again, and still no answer. The lights are still off. So what we do is we call the person who we call Mama Elf, and her name is Regina. So we called Regina to figure out what's going on, because there obviously had to have been people in that room to request that room for their children. So we call Regina, and she's okay, I'll just give the room a call and see if they pick up. Just go ahead and go to your next room. So we go to, I think it was the last room of our night actually. So we go to the last room of the night, and we come back, we do the knock again, lights are still off, people are still not in the room, and so we go ahead and call Regina a third time, and she said, yeah, I called the room, nobody picked up. So what we did is, so the girl who I was partners with actually, she has two other sisters, and both of her sisters are really in tune with sort of like the ghost world. They can feel spirits and they can like tell if they're there. So we go back to get her sister to come with us. And it's really, really creepy because there's nobody there and it's weird. So we get her sister to come back to the room with us to see what's going on. So her sister does the special knock and she's like, and then we wait and then she turns around and she's like, run. So we all ran and she was like, and so when we got back, we were like running, we were panting, we were freaking out because it was a creepy situation. And so she said, we asked her like what was going on with the room, like why she asked us to run, and she said she could feel a very, very dark spirit in there. So so that's the time that I almost babysat a ghost.
Hi, I'm Lexi Cooper. I'm 17, I'm 5'3", and I'm from Marietta, Georgia. Okay, so when I was little, I was like 5 or 6, and my favorite thing to do with my dad and brother was to watch Cops, and I don't know why they let me watch that when I was 5, but they did, and like my mom would get so mad because they let me, but I loved it, and I would get so into it. Like they would be, like people would be resisting the cops, and I'd be like, yeah, go get them, like I'd be like crazy, and I was like 5, and so one night, it was really bad, and we were watching it. It was really late, and it was like an intense scene. Like this cop like went up to this guy, and he was like trying to fight the cop, and it was so bad. And the cop was like, "I'm gonna tase you. I'm gonna tase you." And little 5-year-old Lexi got up from the couch, and I was like jumping in the front from the TV, and I just started screaming, "Tase him! Tase him!" And I'm like 5, and it was really funny. And my parents and my brother and all of them joke about it with me still to this day. So. Yeah, that's the time when I yelled "tase them" at the TV.
Hi, I'm Grace Crane. I am 16 years old. I am from Greenville, North Carolina, and I am 5'6". So, in 7th grade, I did not think I was cool, but I really wanted to be cool. So I was in the bathroom playing trash get ball, where you throw your paper towel into the trash can, or you attempt to do so. I did not. I failed badly every time. So like I had done it like 3 or 4 times with like my one paper towel, and I was like, okay, fine. So I go over to pick it up, and we have in the girls' bathroom, like a metal box where they have feminine hygiene products. So I bend down to pick up my paper towel, and I come up and I hit my head on the corner of this metal box. And I just play it off like, oh yeah, it's fine, it's whatever. And then I go and look in the mirror, and there's blood running down my forehead. And I was like, okay, that's a problem. So I like took a paper towel and like tried to compress it. I go to the office, and I was like, hey, I don't know what to do about this. Like, can you put Band-Aids like on heads? So I am sitting there, they called my dad, and I just like sat there and ate my lunch while I'm bleeding down my face. And the office ladies are like, you look like a prisoner of war and whatever. And I was like, okay, sorry. I just stayed at school with blood in my hair for the rest of the day. And I still have a bump on my head from that. But my friends thought that I had died. I don't know why, but they did think that. So that is a time that I unknowingly convinced my friends that I was eaten by a toilet monster.
Is that everybody?
Hi, my name is Caroline Ferguson. I'm 15 years old. I'm 5'4", and I'm from Richmond, Virginia. In 8th grade, which was like last year, my friend and I decided to have a party about, like, on Halloween, because we were like, oh, we're gonna have a party, we're gonna have like fruit punch, it's gonna be great. And so the night, like the week before, I ordered a Ouija board online at Amazon. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so scary. I can grab onto the boys and they'll be like, oh, I'll save you from the ghost. And so we had decided to do it the night before the party, which was Halloween Eve. So really sketchy. And we got all these candles from my mom's room and we lit them, and it was like so scary. It was like from a movie. And we were sitting outside and we were like talking to this ghost, and one of the candles started to crack. And so we're like,
oh my god, like, this is so freaky. So we said goodbye and we went inside. And my dad was like, you guys are idiots. Like, this is so dumb. So we bring my whole family outside and we start doing it again. And we do the thing where it's like, if anyone's willing to communicate. And this candle cracked, like not the actual candle itself, but the thing that was holding it cracked in complete half. And then they all went out. And that's the story of how I got haunted by a ghost.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Jesse Fulton. I am 17 years old. I am 5'8", and I currently live in Los Angeles, California. One time, only 6 days after I had just gotten my license, I was eager to surprise my Nana. I knew that when I was little she talked about how my older brothers never came to visit her, and she lives in like the next town over, so I thought, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go surprise her, and it's gonna be so nice and everything. And it was. I got there safely. It was my first time taking the freeway alone, and I got there, we had a great time, she cried, she was so happy, and it's time to leave because it's about 6 o'clock and it's a school night, so I gotta go home. So she, tells me like, well, like, I'm so happy you came, like, goodbye, please drive safe. And I was like, of course, Nana, oh my gosh, always. So I get in my car, I put my address back in my maps because I need to know where I'm going. I'm still a new driver and I don't know how to get home. So I take off, I'm a few streets down, not even at the freeway yet, but I was so proud of myself for doing that before that I got a little cocky. And the maps tells me, turn right on Cannon Road. And I'm like, what road? So, casually as one does, you look down at your phone for maybe 2 seconds, and you look back up and there's a truck halfway in your car. So, turns out I was approaching a curve that I was not prepared for, and I hit a parked 1998 Chevy truck, and I smashed the bed in, totaled that car, nearly totaled my car. I caused $16,000 in damage to my car, which was only worth $18,000. So, but the guy didn't want to total it because he was like, I don't want a total on your record, but yeah, you done messed up. And I was like, oops. So I caused $24,000 in damage total within 1 week of having my license. And that's the story of the time I crashed my car for the first time.
Hi, I'm Jack Greenberg. I'm 5'11", I'm 14 years old, and I'm from Greensboro, North Carolina. So this story it's a while ago. It was my first time I ever took a trip to New York City, and I was about 5 years old, and my parents took me to Central Park, the zoo. And we were going around, we were looking at all the animals, and some of them had little posts at them in which you could press a button and there would be a voice that like talks about the animal, talks about its age or its name, and stuff like that. And I was more interested in the lady's voice than the animal itself, so I kind of fell in love with it, and I would go around, I would just listen to it, the entire park. I didn't care about the animals, I cared about the voice. So we were walking back from the zoo, and we were walking back to our hotel, and it was on a busy street, and they have these posts. And it's not at the zoo, so it's not animal posts. They're police posts, and I didn't know that, and I was 5 years old, and I wanted to hear the voice. So I pressed the button that called the police, and it automatically sends a car over. You can talk to the police over it, because there's a microphone, but they send them anyway. So my mom had to apologize over the phone, and I had to apologize to the police officer when he came. So me being the teary-eyed 5-year-old I had to go, I'm sorry for pressing the button, and that's the story. I called the cops on myself.
Hi, I'm Stuart Harrison. I am 6'1", and I'm 15 years old, and I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. So, there's this girl in my theater class. Her name is Avery, and she was pretty, and we were starting talking more. I'm like, oh, I like you a good bit, so. And freshman Stuart's like, hey, this should be a good person to ask out. And so, like, what I'm gonna do, like, I'm gonna be friends with her first. Gotta, like, be chill with her. And so, I'm talking to her, and then I could tell that she was sad that day. And so, I'm like, hey, what's wrong? She's like, oh, nothing, you probably wouldn't understand. And I'm like, what, is it boy trouble? And she's like, not exactly. And I'm like, alright, this is going okay, like, relationship thing, I could work with that. And then I'm like, alright, is it girl trouble? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, Dang it. So, I kept talking to her and like, I'm gonna only be your friend now. I can't like you because you're not into guys. And so that's the time that I fell in love with a lesbian.
Hi, my name is Regan. I'm 15 years old. I'm 5'4", and I'm from Smithfield, North Carolina. So, when I was a young one, I think I was in 6th grade at this point, my school, which by the way is a charter school, which means that we are very, very poor, we had our very first booster bash, and it was a Halloween-themed party, and it was supposed to be like this really, really big thing. And the biggest thing about it was they had the haunted locker rooms, because we had it in the gym. And the haunted locker rooms were the boys' locker room, which is honestly already kind of scary. And they had like smoke all around, and they had the zombified teenagers, and it was like basically high schoolers in jock outfits and like cheerleader costumes with bad makeup on, like weirdly like walking around. The one thing I didn't know about these haunted locker rooms was that there was the ghost pirate. I don't know why there was a ghost in our locker room, but there was. And the ghost pirate was our principal, who was over 6 feet tall, built like a wrestler, and just generally very imposing. And I'm 11 at the time, so I'm about this tall and tiny. So I walk in, I think it's really funny. One of my friends is literally crying in the corner because he's a wuss. And I walk in, I'm like laughing, and I'm like, dude, it's nothing. I know half of these people. I can point them out and say their names. And so I'm walking through, I'm laughing, and then the ghost pirate comes out. I didn't see the ghost pirate until he touches my shoulders, and I'm turned around. He's coming up behind me, and he touches my shoulders. I didn't see him, and I panicked. So, just completely out of reflex, I scream bloody murder, and without thinking, jam my elbow into his rib cage and take off. I am out of there. I am gone. And so, a good like 20 minutes later, they close the haunted locker rooms, and the principal comes out, and he takes off his hat and his, I think he had like a fake beard on, and he takes it off. And I realized that I had just elbowed my principal in the ribs. And he's very clearly in pain, because it wasn't that long afterwards, and I went for it. Like, I was fighting for my life. I thought I was in real danger, so that's the time that I accidentally assaulted my principal.
There's a table.
Hi, my name is Ava Keppel. I'm 5'6" and 15 years old, and I currently live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So at my dance studio, I teach preschoolers, which is very, very interesting. I have tons of stories of funny things they said. They are roughly around the age of 2.5 to like 5. But this one time, we were teaching them the recital dance, and we were in a class called On My Own, which is the first class that your child can take. So this 2.5-year-old girl was standing there, and we could tell something was going on with her. She just kind of like was looking around, and we're like, okay, that's weird. In the middle of our dance, she just squats, like in the middle of our dance. And we're all like, oh no, is this about to happen? And she pees all on the floor. So we're all freaking out, and we don't know what to do. We finally go find someone willing to clean it up for us. And the dad's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. She just got potty trained. She didn't wear a diaper, and he was apologizing. And that's the time that a 2.5-year-old peed on my dance studio's floor.
Hi, I'm Spencer Lin. I'm 5'6". I currently live in San Diego, California, and I am 17 years old. So one time when I was about 10, I was vacationing in Seattle with my mom, my dad, and my brother. And I was walking along this beach with this stick that I had found. I was kind of using it as a walking stick because of the rigorous effort that it needed. And I'd recently seen Bambi when all of a sudden this otter comes out of the forest that was near the beach and just like kind of stands there like. So because there's this otter, I think, oh my gosh, I just saw Bambi. This otter is going to talk to me and become my new best friend. So I, being the weird theater kid I am, start literally yelling at this otter, like, hello, otter friend, be my friend. And all of a sudden, it turns and looks at me. And I kid you not, starts like sprinting at me, like full speed. And I'm like trying to keep, I'm like, oh my god, this was not in Bambi. So I start like running away, and this guy's just like chasing me. And then I think, okay, I need to survive. So I take my walking stick that I'm using and I throw it at this otter. And because I'm a theater kid trying to play sports, I miss. And it lands like right in front of the otter, who just trots along, kind of picks it up in his mouth, stands up on his two hind legs, looks at me, and I kid you not, nods, and walks away. And that is the story of how I got mugged by an otter when I was 10 years old.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So my name is Jenna Margolis. I live in Newton, Massachusetts. I am 5 feet 8 inches tall, and I am 17 years old. So I love to tell this story. I tell it to anyone who will listen. So I was in 8th grade when it happened, and this girl in my grade had her bat mitzvah. The service was in the morning, and then I was at the party in the evening. I remember I was wearing a green dress. It was a lot of fun, there was music, whatever. And you know, sometimes at like fancy parties, they'll have like baskets in the bathrooms that have like safety pins or like gum, or like I stole a Tide pen from one once. They're great. Like with like anything you might need suddenly at a fancy party. And at this particular party, there was that basket was just filled with tampons. Now, I did not have my period at the time, but I got really excited. I was like, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm really excited about these tampons. My friends are looking at me like, what is wrong? You don't have your period. What are you doing? So I like grab one of the tampons and I go back to like the party room, and the table was set up so that like all the kids were sitting at that table, all the kids my age and some of the younger ones, and all the boys had their jackets on the back of their chairs, and they were all lined up next to each other. So I was just like, eeny, meeny, miny, moe. I picked a jacket. I thought I knew whose it was. I wasn't sure. And I just shoved that tampon in a jacket pocket. I was like, I am so funny. I'm gonna like be dancing or something, and like some guy is gonna scream bloody murder, and I'm gonna laugh. Anyway, that didn't happen that night. So I left and I forgot about it. And then I got my period like a month later. And so I went to the bathroom at one point and like didn't need to change my tampon or whatever. So I like came back outside after I'd been in the bathroom. We were supposed to have like a grade-wide meeting or a class meeting. And so I sat down next to one of my guy friends. You know, I have the extra tampon that I didn't use in the bathroom hanging in my sweatshirt, and I'm like, hey Ben, guess what I have? He's like, what? I'm like, you don't want to know. He's like, no, I do, really. I'm like, you sure? You're gonna be grossed out. And I was like, and he was like, no, tell me. So I pull out the tampon. He's like, ew, you know, as every like cis male who sees like a perfectly clean wrapped up tampon does. And he was like, you know, the weirdest thing happened to me like a couple weeks ago. I found a tampon in my jacket pocket and I lost it. My best friend was sitting next to me and I was like, and he's looking at me like, what's wrong with you? I was like, that was me, I put it there. And that was the story of the only time I successfully completed a prank.
So, wait, Slate, yes, hi. Hi, my name is Myle McGarvey. I'm 16 years old and I live in Houston, Texas. I am a person who just kind of thinks everything that is told to them is true. I don't really question the information that I receive ever. I think that's my biggest flaw.
And I realized this when I found out that I did not live in England for a year. I actually was in Birmingham, Alabama. But I thought I was in England until about last year. And let me explain that claim though, okay? I lived in Birmingham when we evacuated from New Orleans for Hurricane Katrina, and my dad had work out of England, so I figured, okay, we're in England, that's fine. Furthermore, I had a friend named Kendall who spoke with a lisp, and I just kind of interpreted that as an accent. So I spent until last year, my freshman year of high school, thinking that I lived in Birmingham, England instead of Birmingham, Alabama. And it's traumatic. Thank you.
My name is Tristan McNelly. I'm 17 years old. I am 5'9", and I'm originally from Fairbanks, Alaska, but currently from Montgomery, Texas. So this story is one of my favorite, most proudest moments of my life that has ever happened. It's a little bit spooky, but not really. So, one summer, my friend was like, hey, I work at this haunted house. It's awesome. You should totally come with me and work at this haunted house in the woods this upcoming Halloween. And I was like, not really a big horror person. Not really scared, but I'm not a big fan of horror. And he's a huge junkie on that. And he was like, this is going to be awesome. And so finally, I came to the Saturday of Halloween, and I had nothing to do. And he goes, hey, you want to come work or volunteer? Not work. I didn't get paid. You want to come volunteer at this haunted house? I was like, it's like 5 o'clock, sure, why not? So we got there, it was like 6, wasn't quite dark yet, and they were like, all right, you're gonna need a costume. You gotta sign this, and you need a costume, you're a volunteer. I was like, cool. And so he was like, here, I'll give you a costume. So my costume was a white blanket and a little cheap plastic mask that glowed in the dark, and it looked kind of like a skull. It was really stupid. And then I had these torn jeans. And my friend goes, it's not creepy enough. And I was like, no, it's plenty creepy. And he goes, nope. So he grabs this big bottle of fake blood and drenches me in it. And that stuff is so nasty and so warm and so sticky. And I mean, it's not it wasn't like one of those casual, it's funny. It was like I was soaking, dripping blood. And it's out in the middle of the woods at night. There are people who live by, so they're kind of looking in, and it's really awkward. And so finally they're like, all right, you ready to go? And I was like, okay. I'm just sloshing around in fake blood with blood-covered Converse that I just got. And I was like, okay, well, great. So then they finally decide to put me somewhere. They go, hey, you're gonna help Austin. And Austin's this big Texan dude who is 20 years old, and he goes, yeah, okay, I'm operating the chainsaw, you're gonna help me. We get this little maze part. And this maze was just a bunch of panels they had taped together, so it was a straightforward little panel thing. He goes, all right, your job is just simply bang on the panels when people walk by. And I was like, what? Really? He's like, yeah, I'm gonna sit in this cage with this chainsaw, I'm gonna cut it, you just bang on the walls before they get here. And I was like, okay, cool. So there was nobody for an hour, and so I just kind of sat there and I got really bored, and I was just throwing stuff. And finally, you could hear people coming because they had flashlights, and they were super noisy and teenagers. Super hilarious to watch people come up and be like, oh yeah, I'm not scared of anything. They'd come in, they were like, yeah, I'm not scared at all. It was usually the big jock guys and their girlfriends. It was so funny. And they came in, and we had a bunch of little jump scares in this maze. None of them worked properly, but I had to set them off by hitting the wall, so they'd walk by and I'd just go like this. Thunk, and it'd go, a little spider or something would jump out. But after doing that a bunch, I got really bored, and so I was like, I'm just gonna hit the wall. And I kind of just did this, and it kind of got more violent, and finally, the wall that I was banging on, which is a straightforward end of a hallway with people coming, gives in and falls, and I'm just standing there, and these people are looking at me. I've never seen people run away so fast. I mean, they were out of there. And I was just like, okay, well, I'm gonna go tell Austin about this, and I'm gonna hopefully get moved somewhere else. I didn't. He just took duct tape and put the wall back up. And he goes, you kind of suck at this. So, I'm gonna fix our chainsaw, which had broken while I had broken the wall. Yeah, everything was breaking at this point. And he goes, hey, so they need some help turning on the animatronics in the other, halfway across this haunted house. And I was like, sure, I'll do it. I'm bored. And so he goes, yeah, just go that way. I'm gonna go this way to fix the chainsaw. You go that way, just go, turn left. And I was like, oh, okay, no problem. Started walking, and I'm in the middle of a forest at night, at 12. And it was dark and I couldn't see anything. And normally, you just show me an area, I can make my way around it. I got lost. I had no phone, I had no light. I was just like, this sucks. And finally, I somehow made my way back into the haunted house, went backwards, and I ran into my friend who's he had a machete, real one, wasn't fake, and he was supposed to jump out at people, And I was going backwards, and so I scared him, and he just threw the machete and ran during the haunted house. I was like, really? And so then I'm trying to turn on these animatronics. He's gone, nobody's there, and they said, yeah, just press the button. So I pressed the button, nothing worked. I said, okay, it's fine. And then I could not find my way back, so I had to go back through the haunted house, and apparently somebody had called reports of some suspicious person walking around the haunted house. It was just me. It was just me in the woods. And finally I got home and I got all the blood-covered stuff off and I had to take it off and put it in a truck. And then I realized my pants and Converse were still soaked in blood. We passed like 3 cop cars. I was like, don't slow down, they're gonna question us. And that's why I will never volunteer at a haunted house ever again. It was a nightmare. Not even good.
Hi, my name's Alyssa Sochet. I am 15 years old. I live in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and I am 5'11". So about a year ago, I was in Kernersville, but more of the middle of nowhere, which is about 30 minutes away from where I live in Winston. And I was walking with my friends, and we walked to this creek, and we were just hanging out. And we realized it was getting dark, so we start walking back, and it's this middle of nowhere road. And I'm closest towards the cars, and we were just hanging out. We were having soda and all that, because, I'm pure. And so we're just walking, and it's somewhat dark, and it starts raining. We are about to cut through a yard when a car going about 50 miles an hour drives straight and runs over the back of my heel. I turned, and I got out of the way. None of my other friends got hurt, but I was there on the ground with a bleeding ankle. And it was a hit and run, so the person kept on driving. And we were sitting there for about 25 minutes because it was dark at this point and we had no idea where we were. And my friends were trying to wave down a car and the other friend started running back towards where the house was. And so we got that and I called my mom and I'm very prone to injury and I was just like, Mom, and she was just like, what did you do this time? And I was just like, I got hit by a car. And when we got there, we had to talk to the police because, hit and run. And they were just like, have you been doing any illegal substances? And I was I don't smoke, I don't do any of that. I don't do the alcohols, that is bad. No. And I get there, I'm there for about 4 hours because I had to get x-rays and it was a busy night because it was Friday and people are stupid. And so I was there and I had a sprained ankle and I couldn't walk on it for 3 weeks. It was swollen and I now have no feeling in the back of my foot. So yeah, that's how I got hit by a car.
My name is Alan Toney. I am 6'4". I am from Memphis, Tennessee, and I am 17 years old. So this story is pretty disgusting, so you might want to embrace yourself. I've told this story a lot. It's pretty gross. Okay, so I was about 10, 11, or 12. It was somewhere around that time. And one night I woke up in the middle of the night and my knee was bleeding. And so I was half asleep, so I just kind of went to the bathroom, wiped it off, and went back to sleep. It was perfectly fine. Then the next day I noticed that it started swelling, and it just started swelling up. It just looked really, really weird. And I was like, okay, well, it's just a cut or whatever. I didn't know what to do. I was 10 years old, so it wasn't that big of a deal to me. So just over the course of more days, it started swelling and getting worse, and then pus started coming out. Just like more pus started coming out. I was over here squeezing pus out of my knee, and I was like, this is weird. Let me just tell my dad. And then my dad looked at it, and we noticed that there were 2 fang marks in the implant of my knee. So I was like, oh, I got bit by something. My dad assumed that I got bit by a spider. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, it's whatever. Then over the course of more days, more pus is starting to come out, and then over the time, it's been a week. This one day, I'm in my grandma's house, and my grandma's upstairs, and I'm downstairs watching TV or something, whatever I was doing, and I'm down here tending to my knee, squeezing more pus out, and just whatever. My knee eventually starts bleeding, and I'm like bleeding blood out of my knee, and this is where it gets disgusting. Okay. Little baby spiders started like crawling out of me. And like they were just like these little tiny particle spider things just like crawling out of my knee. And I'm over here freaking out. I'm like, what is coming out of me right now? I thought I was Spider-Man. Like it was insane. That was one of the most traumatizing acts of my life. And honestly, I don't even remember it that well because that was so long ago. I'm not scared of spiders anymore or anything. But I called my dad and I was like, Dad, something just like came out of me. So he took me to minor medical. They put a pain shot in and they went in, cleaned it out and everything, and then they stitched it closed. And I still have a hole today to where these spiders came out of my knee, and it is an interesting scratch. If you want to look at it, I got it. But that is the time when I became Spider-Man.
Hi, I'm Ivy Walker. I'm 5'2". I'm from Dallas, Texas. And I'm 16 years old. And so one time, it was when I was like first starting to learn to drive. I'd been out like 3 times. And I'd only gone, like my top speed had been like 40 miles an hour. And then there's this road by my house. It's called 380 and it gets up to like 60, but it's not a highway. And my dad's like, why don't we go on 380? So I'm like, oh, okay. So we went out and I did really good. I was so proud of myself. And so we're going back to my house. We're turning, we get onto my street and I'm like, oh, I'm so proud of myself. And Dad's like, I'm so proud of you. You did so well. And we get into my driveway and I get there and I'm sitting there and like my foot's on the brake. And I'm like done. I could just put it in park, but I'm like, wait, there's something I gotta do. I move my foot over to the gas, and I run into my garage door. And the car was fine, and it was only like a little tap, but my garage door is still like dented to, like it was like a year ago, and it's still like dented to this day. We still need to fix it. And so we did it, and then so like I had to reverse, and I thought my dad was gonna be so mad. Like I looked over at him, and I'm like, and he like we shared this moment of like complete silence, and he was just like, and then we both started like cracking up, and then my laughter, I was just like, and I was crying like so hard, and we went into the house. And I had to tell my mom that I crashed into the garage door, and cause she was like asleep. It was like dark out, and I'm like, Mom, I ran into our garage door, and she's like, is the car okay? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, then what's the problem? So that's the time I like wrecked our house.
Hi, I'm Ruby Westhoff. I'm 16 years old. I'm 5'4", and I'm from New York City. Okay, so I was about 7 or 8 when this happened. Me and my best friend and our parents had gone to this really nice restaurant, and we were bored with the conversation, and we wanted to go into the bathroom and like talk or something. So we asked our parents if we could go alone. And they were like, yeah, sure, whatever. So we're going into the bathroom, and there's candles everywhere because it's a really, really nice bathroom. And I had very thick hair, very long hair, and my friend was using the bathroom. So we're like talking, and I'm not paying attention, and I'm leaning back onto the sink, and all of a sudden my friend's eyes grow so big, and she starts screaming, and I have no idea what's the matter. And so I'm like moving around trying to figure it out, and she's fanning my head, and I realize that my hair is like up in flames. And so she's fanning it, which is not helpful. It's making the fire bigger. So we run through the entire kitchen. Everyone is looking at me with my hair on fire. And somebody, I don't even know who it was, threw water on my head. So I returned to my parents' table, and they're looking at me shocked, like, of course this was me. So I had a huge singe at the back of my head for a really long time, and I didn't want to cut my hair. So I had like this huge singe at the back of my head. And that's my first time catching my hair on fire.